We are more than just accountants. We are business advisors, taxation consultants, and strategists that specialise in setting up businesses. We understand the client and give them the very best customised advice and strategies to achieve their goals. Visit our website dkpco.com.au or give us a call today on 03 9023 9370. Fast, proactive, personal. That's DKP & Co Chartered Accountants.
You're listening to the State of Our Football Nation on FNR. Streaming across the country and streaming across the world, FNR. And we're heading off to a place called Goa in India. We're going to go via Zoom using all the latest technology. Josh Parrish is on my immediate left side. He's also running the controls. We're delighted to be able to say hello and welcome to State of Our Football Nation. My name is George Danikian. And right now, let's see if we can discover what's happening in Goa. There's a young man who's just been having a bit of a relaxing day. He's been on the massage table. He's got the beach almost outside his left window there. It's David Williams. Willow, welcome to FNR.
Hey, George. Thanks, Josh. Thanks for having me.
Mate, it's a thrill for us to be able to get you in between your commitments playing in the Indian Premier League. And what a year it's been. It's been, of course, knocked around severely by COVID. Fans, no fans. What's the latest?
No fans, unfortunately, for the last 2 seasons. So they've completely closed the door to that, which is, affects the games. I think it affects the players. It affects the level and the pace of the game as well. So, once that's back, I think you can see the level of the intensity will lift, and you probably see a few more exciting games, So it is what it is, but from all reports, next year will be back to normal.
Does that put ATK at a bit of a disadvantage, Willow? Because, I don't know all that much about the Indian League, but it seems as if they're one of the clubs with a bigger following than most.
Yeah, I think it does. I mean, we've got a very, very good team to still get results and be successful. But as a player, sometimes I was running down the wing, and with a crowd of 25 to 50,000, depending on what type of occasion it was, they're just right behind you. The Indian fans don't chant special songs together. There's different groups all over the spot. But as soon as one player leaves the halfway line on a run up the wing or a counter-attack, the whole level just rises. So it doesn't matter if you're tired, mentally you can't keep going. There's something that the crowd just pushes you, and that's all around the world. And you can just push and push and push. Whereas these days, if the same situation on the pitch, you might run to a certain point, and then the defender's in front of you, and you just turn out and go back and recycle the ball and things like that. Then it's not as exciting, but you retain possession, but the fans don't want to see possession. They want to see counter-attacks. They want to see goals. So I think that takes away from also some attributes of some attacking players, of, quick counter-attacks, whereas, it goes against sometimes the difference of coaches' tactics of keeping the ball and whatnot. But at the end of the day, I think we have to play football for the fans. That's how football is made, is purely fans. So it's disappointing not to be able to play in front of them. And, they spend money to come with tickets or, on the bus or with merchandise. And, we kind of have to give them what they want.
Listen, the broadcast rights over there are substantial, and what people don't readily appreciate about the Indian Premier League is that some of the biggest names in India, some of the biggest names in Indian sport, we're talking about some of the biggest cricketing names, they own football clubs in the Indian Premier League.
Yeah, it's quite crazy. We have Ganguly as a part of our club.
The man they call the Wall, Ganguly?
Yeah, whether or not that's, for the, appearance type thing and, to pump the club up a little more. I'm not exactly sure of the details, but he definitely has a part in the club. And I've had the pleasure of meeting him before in my first season at the club, and also Virat Kohli is part of Goa. They find faces of it to boost also the popularity of football, which doesn't really need that a big of a boost because India is just so rich in football culture that not many people outside of the country know about, but football is huge here.
Can I just give you a glimpse, take you way back to a place called Melbourne, 1956, and India beat Australia in a semi or a quarter final. Ted Smith, one of the great stars of South Melbourne fame and Moreland fame, was one of the young boys making his debut for Australia. Ron Lord was in goal, and they came up against an Indian team that was barefoot. Just think about it. Yeah, and they didn't know quite how to go about playing them, but the Indians didn't care. They just ran out, scored more goals than Australia and advanced. And of course, we had this incredible perception that, must be low-key football or they don't have a heritage. They have a vast heritage in sport, and you're immersed in it right now. And the numbers you just talked about, 25, 50,000, they're vast crowds. You're talking better crowds than the NRL, as big crowds as the AFL draws. That's big business.
It's huge business, and we're not the only club who have big amounts of fans. Kerala have a huge base. I think they've got over 1 million followers on their socials streams, and their atmosphere that they create in Kochi is unbelievable. Like, my first game in India was against Kerala, the opening match of the 2019-20 season, and it was electric. It was just yellow. It was a show. It was entertainment for them. And then after that entertainment, it was 90 minutes of football and then entertainment again after. So it's a whole day occasion for them because they don't have that much. So they have Bollywood stars come out and things like, and that's what, it misses here in India is the whole occasion of a full day event and then the football game, which, we as players can excite everyone at the stadium. So that's electric. We had 50,000 at our stadium for a semi-final that year, which was quite, amazing and goosebumpy, but we're playing in a 100,000 seater stadium. So unfortunately that year we could never play a derby, but since ATK became a joint merger with Mohanbagan, now it's ATK Mohanbagan, now we have the opportunity to play the Kolkata derby against East Bengal. So next year, I'm sure that'll happen. Whether or not I'm there or not, we've still got to discuss contracts. But it's 50,000 from each team, and it's basically like an FA Cup style. You've got orange and yellow on one half, and then green and maroon on the other half, and it's huge. And that derby is, I think, over 120 years old, I think, at this stage. So
the quality of the football. Are there young Indian players who you think, if we had the franchises here pick them up or look to pick them up, they would make a serious contribution to the A-League?
100%. There's a couple of boys in our team who definitely have the potential. They've got the bodies for it. They've got the mechanics to be good footballers. The unfortunate thing for a lot of Indians is they didn't have the access to good training when they were 6-7 years old, academies, good pitches, the right coaches to tell them what they're doing wrong or, help them in those circumstances. So if they can learn at an older age, they would definitely have the potential, but also they just need the right coach to either put their arm around them to say, this is what you're doing wrong, this is what you can do better. Here is driven a lot by the social media, and you score 1 or 2 good goals and the social media goes crazy for them. So then, they get put up on a pedestal before they've really achieved anything. So possibly going overseas and getting in the right club with the right setup can definitely, be something in the future for Indian players. So I've seen it also around the other teams that in the league that there's players who could definitely play in the A-League. Whether or not they're better than what Australians are is arguable. So do you take an Indian who is at this level, or do you take someone, a young player, 18 or 16, 17, 18 at these ages, who is just there, that lives around the corner from the training ground? They don't have to do visas. They don't have to, pay rent and, do all that. So cost effective, you've probably got a player that's here and there. So as an investment point of view in football, which it is these days in a business, you'd probably invest in the cheaper to then go higher. But in terms of that level, Indians are some very, very good, fine athletes and very good work ethic. They have a good mentality,
That's good.
Very respectful as well. It's just their brains just have to open up to learning, which then I can see potential in them playing overseas, definitely.
Something that might open the door for that, Willow, is the A-League clubs adopting a 4+1 rule with a visa spot reserved exclusively for an AFC player. And that's been discussed. Recent article, it gets brought up every now and again, but recent article in the Sydney Morning Herald by Don Bossi seems to suggest that, it's on the cards very, very soon. And he pinpointed Sandesh Jingan as one player that the A-League clubs might try and take a punt on as an established Indian star to not only bring some quality to the A-League but also bring in the fans. But I noticed he's just signed for your club. So can you tell us a little bit about him?
Yeah, so Sandy, he was with us last year.
Sandy.
And he got the opportunity then he got the opportunity to head off to Croatia. Unfortunately for him, he didn't make an appearance, or he was on the bench a couple of times. But it was a huge milestone for this day and age for a player to leave India and get a contract in a European club. So he took a chance and he went for it, took a big pay cut to advance his life in football. Didn't work out. He'll be stronger for it. He's come back to ATK Mohammedan and he's just under a bit of an injury cloud. He's coming back. He could be back in for this game or coming up in a couple of days or the following game. But he's definitely got potential to play overseas. He's strong. He's very, very good in the air. He's fit. He's committed, and he's a professional and a leader. So this team would not like to lose him again.
Sorry for trying to poach your players, Willow, but I just thought it was an interesting coincidence.
If it benefited him, then of course. And it might be easy for him to play in Australia rather than being in a different culture like Croatia. And, you're going there to steal someone's spot, and those locals don't like that. I went to Denmark and stole a local striker's spot, and I wasn't accepted until I started scoring goals in the season. So, I mean, it is difficult for foreigners obviously to come, but there's a culture, in Indian culture, anywhere in Australia. He'll find places where, he can hang out and be comfortable, but he definitely has the mentality and the capability of playing there. But this club would not like to lose him again, that's for sure.
As you were speaking there, I kept thinking to myself, one of the things that we do at FNR, we have a number of programs. One of them is the Green Room, and it represents Western United. And they are slap bang right in the middle of one of the biggest Indian communities in the whole of Melbourne. And I could see a smart operation, a really good, not just PR, but genuinely bringing a young player with talent and letting him immerse himself in that community. And he could change the fortune, not only of his own fortunes, but also that club.
Definitely. And, look at, for example, just a, slight example of Jisung Park and Manchester United. Definitely deserve to be there. Yep. But from a marketing point of view, you get the country behind his country, being South Korea, behind him. You've got all these fans coming to Manchester United if they weren't there already.
Son at Spurs.
Yeah.
That's a big
and then
step.
You've got a big, huge, exactly. You've got a huge country like India. You've got a young local lad that, Indians will always claim their own, even if he's born and raised and grown up in just outside Melbourne, he'll be Indian. Where's his grandparents from? Where is his heritage from? They'll attach onto that like they kind of do with Sarpreet Singh a little bit, which fair enough. That's his culture. This is his heritage is here. So, and when he's playing at a high level, he's in Germany now and stuff like that. They always think, oh, can we get him for the national team? Well, he's unfortunately already played for New Zealand a few times. So, he's definitely got football in his bones. So that doesn't mean he got that from New Zealand. So I think it's floating all around. And again, you just have to have the right coach to push these players and identify what they're strong at, and advance that. And just like you were saying with the 4+1, I think it's a great idea. India now has an Asian spot allocated to each team, so each team has to have an Asian passport player. So that's me in this case, and it does provide a big opportunity for Australian players to also venture out of the A-League, if that's what I can call it now, or the men's top division in Australia.
A-League men's.
A-League men's, yeah.
By the way, our A-League women's superstar, Sam Kerr, is of Indian background.
She is. I remember we discussed that the last, I heard you when I wasn't able to be there in audio. That was discussed. And it's, they cling on to that. And then you have a following there. People start to become more interested. You might, get more followings, and it can boost, the league if you bring certain people. And sometimes it's not always about bums on seats. It is about exposure. So I definitely feel like Western United would be definitely a team to do that. You said Western United, didn't you?
Yep.
Yes, and I know they want to embrace the community, and that's a big thing that they could do.
They're going to build a stadium. 4+1. They're going to build a stadium right in the middle. They've already started. Can you imagine?
Well, you put Indian street food out there and you have the stadium full in no time. So you've got to appeal to the people around you, I think, in clubs like that. And they have the opportunity to do it right from the start because they're new. I feel like it's more difficult for older clubs in the league who are trying to get fans back into the stadium, who have previously had it. So it's reconnecting, where in Western United they have the chance to connect from the start. So I think they're in probably a pretty good position to do well. And it's also their form on the pitch and results is helping in that sense right now.
Tell us a little bit about your club situation and the merger that's happened to bring Mohun Bagan into the Indian Super League. They were previously, along with East Bengal, in the I-League, if I understand correctly, and they were hugely popular in that other competition. So how has that changed the club and the fan base and so forth?
Yeah, so there's a big divide in that. Unfortunately, it's a bit unsettling for players. Players get Instagram messages and Twitter tags and all this stuff about breaking the merger. The Mohammedans aren't happy with that because the owner's baby basically is ATK, and that's what I signed on to be. So I've got good memories there. So, for example, I put something up of a memory from that first season where we were successful. I don't always get welcome with positive comments on that. So I'm not going to stop that because of someone else's feeling, but it does offend them in certain ways. But it's a difficult situation because you don't want to antagonize or annoy one group, but then how do you please the other group in that sense? So probably the best thing for the team at the moment is not being in Kolkata and being in the bubble for the last 2 years, because there possibly could have been riots or unsettling events at trainings and games and whatnot. So we can expect, a bit of tension, I think, when we get back to Kolkata for the AFC Cup qualifying in April, which I hear it'll be with a crowd, which will be nice. Fans let in because it's not run by the league. It's a AFC tournament. So I think anything goes, just as long as the game gets played. They don't really care. So yeah, it is a tough situation. But the history of Mohammedgan is huge. And it's great to be involved in that. But again, like for example, Roy Christian and I, we signed from Wellington together at ATK. So we have great memories from there. We won a trophy the first year. I think we lost 4 games that first year. So that in my mind is quite still fresh and successful, you know. So I try not to, you know, piss off in a way or offend anyone, but then I can't express exactly how I feel to then that's, and you know, I'm a quite honest guy, so it's withholding information or celebrations rather than you know, offending people. So time heals things, I think.
Yeah.
I think it'll probably take a bit more time before it will work for the fans, but there might be fans who just completely are against it. And but from my understanding, Mohammedan were in financial difficulty, and if our owner of ATK, Mr. Sanjeev Goenka, if he didn't take over the club, there was no one there to keep the club afloat. So possibly the sense that there might not have been a Mohammedan in 1 year or 2 years from now, because it was just going down, down, down. So our owner, with every right that he does, he bought the club. He pays the salary, he pays for everything.
Yeah.
So he pays the bills. So to have his, I guess, brand or his name in front, as a player, I have to respect that. So,
Speaking of you as a player, we're talking to David Williams or Willow. Willow's 16. I remember him as a fantastic addition.
15.
Willow 15.
Oh, gee.
I started my Twitter.
You can laugh. You can laugh now.
Heart.
Go on, you were saying?
I started my Twitter when I first arrived in Melbourne at Melbourne Heart, and that was my number, 15. I took over from John Aloisi. So when we started the Twitter handles, nickname Willow _15. Not that I use it much. I use it for all my news back home to know when the borders open, how many people are vaccinated in Townsville, stuff like that.
Now, Townsville for you is home because that's where your partner, that's where the children are, and they've been without you for the better part of the last 6 months. Talk to us about that. Mentally, how do you cope with that, my friend?
Well, it's funny because I'm actually studying, children's mental health, and mentoring as well. Like and it's difficult. And I'm going through sometimes a tough situation. I'm without my family, and it is very hard. And as much as I need them, they also need me. So I'm thinking that my boys, being 5 and 2.5, really need a father figure and their dad around. So it's difficult to sit here and just have the rest and relax and do that, and not be able to provide what I need to provide, except for financially. And at the end of the day, that's why I'm here, is to provide for the future, to make it easier for us. So do the hard yards, and that happens with, I guess 90% of human life around the world, whether or not they're doing the hard yards, living in the same city, but working 5 to 5 and these long days and still not getting the time. I'm here doing what I love, but for the future of my family and to be comfortable. So it is difficult. My wife's a very, very strong woman who, can still get through all this, but she's kept quite busy by the boys. So I think the day ends and she gets some good rest at times, but she definitely needs a good break once I get home.
Has it been helpful for you in this period to have a familiar face around in Roy Krishna, someone who you had a prior relationship with on and off the field at Wellington? Yeah,
definitely. We were roommates actually a lot of the time when we were in Wellington, so that helped as well. And coming here, now 2 of us are the foreign players. We generally get our own rooms, which is nice. So sometimes we get into a hotel, and if we were rooming together and, we weren't really happy with the bed configuration, or is a little bit small, we'd just make a quick call to the manager or send him a quick text, and they'd have a key for us we'd have 2 separate rooms. And so that it's good. We were looked after here. So we have a laugh together. We, being in quarantine, in a bubble, we spend a lot of time. And his wife's here also, and they've had a baby who just turns 3 months old today.
Wow.
So I'm Uncle Willie over here to them, and I get her to sleep when they need to have their lunch or dinner, or have some time to themselves, I'll always take her, and it makes me appreciate my kids when I get to hold this little baby. And I always wanted a girl, and it's a little girl, so it's nice for now. It just gets me through until I get home.
If your wife is listening, what's her name? Your wife's name?
Madeline.
Madeline. He just mentioned he would love a daughter. So just putting a thought in there for you. Speak to us about language. Are you immersing yourself to the point where you've learnt some language, or you've learnt some words or some phrases? Can you get by?
Or does English get you by?
Or does English get you everything?
English gets you everything here. Everyone speaks English fine. We don't have to learn Hindi because every state has their own language, and even throughout the state, they have their own mother tongue. So some boys, most boys know Hindi, but there's even a couple of boys in our team or in other teams as well who don't even speak Hindi. They either speak a little bit of English or their mother tongue. So majority speak their mother tongue, Hindi and English, so they can speak 3 languages. But there are a few boys who speak even more. Their parents might be from 2 different states, so they've got to learn their languages, learn Hindi as well as the national Indian language, and then English being the number 1 language.
So is English the number 1 language for television and radio?
I think so, yes. I don't, but they do it in both.
Okay.
And a lot of commentators or personnel on air, MCs, they go back and forth between English and Hindi like it's nothing. So it's
what
quite
language
amazing.
So what language does Andy Pascalides call the game in when he's calling?
Probably Greek. Andy does very well here, and he's very well respected. So he's generally doing his English part, and then on the other side there's I think Indian commentators as well. So you can watch the game in a couple of languages, which is good.
He's got you, in inverted commas, the Indigenous boy, isn't he, or the Indigenous footballer?
The Indigenous Australian.
Oh, Indigenous Australian, right? Okay, first Australian.
Yeah.
So
he's.
So talk to us.
Yeah,
Take me back, because I can remember some golden times when you were making, a whole new set of fans very excited when you were breaking through and scoring some truly wonderful goals at Amy Park. Can you take us back to those early days? How easy or how difficult was it making your way even then in the A-League, in a brand new club that was trying to make its way up against the might of Melbourne Victory, which had been, for 5 years, the team and the base and the biggest club in the country? What was it like in those days for you?
It was good. I was excited to come to Melbourne.
This is from Fury?
From Fury. I was very comfortable in Townsville. We had a good lifestyle up there, but we weren't very successful, and I was speaking to a few different teams in the A-League as well to move to, but Hart appealed to me. They made a big effort to have me on board, and I was excited about the prospect of going there and signing there. And I don't think looking back on it, I probably could have applied myself a little bit better and got better results for the team or scored more and things. I don't think I was the complete player being that age, and I don't think I was in my prime. It's weird to say that I feel like I'm in my prime when I hit probably India, but being in Wellington, I feel like I hit some really good form there under Mark Rudan. And then coming to India, I just felt a little bit more free. I think there's a lot of the professional side in Australia is as high level as you go in the world. So you've got people on high salaries in England earning millions of dollars being the same professional level as a kid who's on $45,000 a year, So the standards are the same, but the wages are totally different. So I definitely probably should have applied myself a little bit more. I don't regret my career in that sense, because I wouldn't be where I am now if I didn't make the decisions of that I had done in my playing career. But at 30 or 29, 30, 31, I feel like I've, scored some of my best goals in that age bracket. And even the last 2 years, I feel like I've scored some really good goals as well. I've developed as a player, and I feel like as a human as well after having kids, and definitely thought, what is life about? It's not all about football. I'm very, very lucky and privileged to do what I do. But if for some reason there was, an incident and I couldn't play football anymore, I'd be so happy in terms of life outside of football. I have my family there. I have a good setup in Townsville, and I've just learnt being in a bubble. Mentally, you struggle. Sometimes it's good because you're winning, but you got a lot of time to think, and there's more to life to just your job and things like it. It's the people around you and being around good humans. So I'm around good people at the moment here, which is still getting me through. But so I've kind of gone off track there. But going back to Melbourne Heart, I love my time there. When it transferred into Melbourne City, I extended my contract there and loved being a part of that setup. We got everything given to us, and probably didn't get the results that we should have, with everything hand fed. Basically, it was on a platter. The facilities, the training ground, being at Amy Park. But no matter the form of Victory or Melbourne City or Melbourne Heart at the time, we could be close to the bottom of the league, but for a derby, you get up for it. And it doesn't matter about form, goes out the window, because it's the passion, it's the fans full of Amy. I remember even being at Etihad, 52,000.
Yeah.
Like that was amazing. And that's what you live for in football terms, is the derbies, these big games that you can be out there for 90 minutes or 60 minutes, however long you get the opportunity to play. You've got the chance to entertain people and not make a name for yourself, because I don't think I've ever been selfish in that way, but you can write the headlines the next day in the paper. Like this is power that you not many people get. So I enjoyed my time there, but I think I got a bit too comfortable and a bit too complacent, and I needed a change, and it all worked out. I've travelled a bit more of the world, got to Hungary, and went back to New Zealand as well. That was beautiful. Wellington's an amazing city.
Yeah, very pretty.
And now in India.
Very pretty.
Very pretty. So
stunning beach out your window now, so it hasn't worked out too badly.
You can wave the palm tree. Show us the palm trees again. Just wave it around. Look at this.
I mean,
it's a tough day.
Nice
tough
work
day
if
in
you can
Melbourne,
get
but there he is in Goa, having a really awkward afternoon.
There's dolphins just out the front as well.
Oh,
so
just pump it up a little bit more for us. The Tourism Commission just rang me. They said, "Is that David Williams talking about Goa?"
Mate, it's a good spot, and unfortunately we can't see it. We can't see outside of these walls unless we're going to training or the stadium. So yes, the life might seem good, and yes, it's a good view. But I get to see the dolphin tour boats. It's a bit of a party boat. They pump the music, drop a bit of fish out the back, and hopefully the dolphins follow them. So it's a good spot. But I'm ready to finish the season. We've got 38 days left. Not that I'm counting, but
that's fantastic stuff. By the way, imagine how Perth Glory's feeling. They're not even allowed to visit their own state, because their WA Premier has created a whole new world that many people are thinking they should just secede because they don't belong to the rest of Australia.
Well, do you remember, I think, what was it, a Mark Chopper Reid impersonator did a skit, and he had the map of Australia and he had all of Australia, and then it was only Perth, but I think in this instance, Perth separated from Australia, and he said, well, they're so far away, just push them even more. So that was Western Australia. You could do that. It was, I'm not going to swear because that's how Chopper does it, and it was quite funny, but they're so far over that sense, but they're definitely disconnected. I see it on Twitter and online, and people aren't happy. There's also A-League players who have raised concerns, of course, Perth Glory, about also not being able to play in front of their family and friends and see them. And, if the whole of Australia is, besides Western Australia, is learning to live with it, coronavirus, I don't really enjoy speaking about it. I think we give too much time speaking about it. Sure. It's just a bit draining, I just think they need to get on with it as well and learn to deal with it, because Omicron, the variant, has gone through the league here and gone through the team. Not everyone. I was lucky to dodge it. I'm still 33 and agile, so I'm in between everyone in the hallway.
That's Willow just flicking, little lefts and rights,
throwing a feint here and there.
Yeah.
Exactly. And, go around and, not that way, I'll choose another way to walk or something. But it went through a good 60% of our team with staff and bus drivers and everything like that as well. I was offering to drive the coaster, but they said, no, it's all good. So I just think it's mentally a terrible way to be dealing with Perth Glory and the government at the time. I feel very sorry for him. I remember reading something on Roston Griffith's Facebook, and he's
a good boy.
And
your former Fury teammate,
his
right?
Baby. Yeah, yes, and I just he's a very honest guy, and I wish people could be more open like he is as well, because I think fans would get more enjoyment out of players and being more honest.
Correct.
Whereas we get kind of pushed down or fined or sanctioned for being honest, and which is unfortunate. But in that sense, he was saying, his wife and little girl can't even get back to see her grandparents and family. It's been so long. So I don't agree with that, because I've got my family back in Queensland, and the borders were shut for a long time as well. And to leave was a nightmare. Part of me and George, I know I'm going down a political point. You've got a lot more experience than me, but I just don't understand why Australia aren't all on the same page. We're one nation to...
I'm 100%.
It's probably an easy throw-out comment, but yeah.
Yeah, look, David, we said many moons ago, Josh and I have spoken about this, Federation has failed us. 100 plus years ago when they set up Federation, the whole point was for one nation to work together. And somehow we've created a situation where you've got a number of fiefdoms and premiers playing their own strategic game for whatever reason. There's a federal election and there's a state election coming up. So that should give you an idea what sort of games are going to be played. But listen, can we just take an opportunity to say thank you for being so open and so generous to give us this time. Before your contract is finished, we want to come back and talk to you again as you guys wrap up and do that. Yep. And let Madeline know that you're on so she can have a laugh while we're talking.
Oh, definitely. She tried to call me before. She's on her way back from the uni, so I should give her a call back. But no, she's been great. I can't wait to see my family. I'll get a little break off. I think we've got 7 games left of the season. We've got a couple of games in hand, and we're already in the top 4, so we can push for top spot, take points off Kerala and Bengaluru, who are above us, and we've got a game in hand. First spot here is Asian Champions League for next season, so there's heaps to play for. India football, people don't think you can play competitions outside India, but I was in AFC Cup last year. So from being in lockdown for majority of my holidays in Townsville and staying up there, which was still great because, COVID wasn't much of a thing up there, probably June, July, August last year. I left, so you couldn't travel, couldn't really go to Sydney, couldn't go to Melbourne, couldn't do anything without border passes and essential work. I left Brisbane on August 10th. And between that time, I went from Brisbane to Kolkata in India, Then we went to the Maldives for a week for a tournament. Then we came back to Kolkata again, all free flowing, no restrictions. Then we went to Uzbekistan. We had a AFC Cup game there against FC Nasaf. After that, I went to Istanbul, flew from Istanbul then to Barcelona, had a couple of days there. Went to France, Scotland, back to France, back to Kolkata, all within 2 months. But I couldn't even go to Sydney. So
hey, at least you've been seeing the rest of the world in the meantime.
Exactly, and as long as you're doing the right things and you're keeping clean and hygienic, you can still work and you can still get out there and do things. And the world has kind of moved on, and yes, it's difficult situations, but I think about the A-League, and I watch it. I watch all the games as well when I'm available. When they're on, I watch the A-League men's as much as I can. I sign up to Paramount and put my VPN on, and if I can't do that, some of the games are on YouTube for everyone outside of the country as well. And I keep an eye on it because I've got friends playing there, and one day I would like to be back there for sure. It's definitely a possibility. Teams also know what I'm capable of still at this age,
especially now that you've matured.
Well, I'm getting a lot more responsibility as well. As that maturity comes, I'm slowing down, but that gives me more control with the ball. And then I'm slowly, from a striker, I'm coming down to a number 10. I could be in the midfield next year, or possibly centre back in 2 years. But I'm enjoying that freedom in the number 10 role, and the coach gives me a lot of confidence to leave a central striker position to go and touch the ball, to create something, to be a bit more creative. And I enjoy that. And I feel like I've become a better player since I've got a bit more freedom, instead of being the fast striker just running deep, or just dropping the ball off and then running deep again. So I've got more to offer now, which is good. I'm not trying to pump myself up. I just know myself as a player. I can still play for another couple of years with the different styles of coaches, and also, like you just mentioned, George, the maturity. It comes with age, and a bit more controlled, and a bit more professional these days, because I want to prolong my career. So I feel good, but also, like, we could talk for hours about it, but I feel like I need to come back to Australia and be a role model more for these Indigenous kids who possibly can come up to the A-League football, but we need to identify them.
Let's get some more.
And Josh, like you were saying, and I would love people to get on this kind of bandwagon. I feel like A-League clubs, or even youth teams, for example, I don't know the exact number of the youth league squad is, but I feel like 2 of those spots need to be specifically for Indigenous kids, where, for example, it's a squad of 21. 2 of those have to be for Indigenous kids. And if the club aren't able to find them or fill those spots, then you stay with 19. So then your squad's less. So it's an incentive to get these kids integrated, and you've got to find the right people or the right players that to put them in a city where they might have family or friends already, where you're not plucking them out from Northern Territory and just throwing in the deep end. And I'd love to be involved in something like that. It's an idea of mine that hopefully can get pushed, that I speak with Andy Pascalides a bit, but the talent's out there.
Great idea, my boy. The
talent's out there, and they're loving the AFL, they're loving the NRL. They might not have those specific skills. They might be very talented in football, but I'm putting my hand up and saying I'm happy to go and look at them, to watch them, to fly with them, to bring them to a club. And so that's a dream of mine, is to still play in Australia, and make sure that Aboriginal kids know that they can play football on TV in front of their family and friends as well. So they're exciting. These young kids. We just got to go and find them.
David Williams, you've done it again. Willow, thank you so very much for giving us the time and for catching up. And we're going to do some more. Get back to you. Stay well, stay safe. And we're going to talk more about this Indigenous dream of yours. I think it's a great idea. All the best, Willow.
No worries. Well, save a spot, like I said, save a spot for a jersey in the back. I'll have one sent to you.
Oh, we would love that. We would display it with pride here in the FNR studios, Willow.
Well, I see the old Socceroos jersey right on the left at the back corner there. That was probably from the 2005, 2000.
I reckon that might be 01 or 02, that number. That's a real vintage one.
I've got a few of them in my box from being in under 17, under 20, and because it's so hot in Townsville, being in storage, when I open them, sometimes the lettering and the numbers are peeling off. So it's not great. Need to find some better storage, I think.
No worries.
Well, we're happy to provide.
Thank you for having me.
All the best,
David.
David.
Thank you for having me. We'll talk to you guys when it suits you.
Catch up soon.
Done. All the best, Davey.
Yeah. Thank you.
David Williams joining us to talk about his current stint in India, in the Indian Premier League. He's currently based in a bubble in Goa. And as you can say, and as he showed us, palm trees and beautiful beaches, but he can't go outside.
Isn't that tantalising? It's like a Microsoft screensaver. You can't touch it. But George, we've got to go to a break because we've got a guest waiting for us.
Another guest waiting for us, absolutely.
We are more than engineers. We are more than project managers. We are more than surveyors. We are more than infrastructure specialists. We are more than planners. So, who are we? We are problem solvers, providing the highest quality service and results. We are a team of skilled professionals, focused on customer needs and outcomes. We are 23 years of industry experience, adhering to the highest safety standards. We are Melbourne, and we are right across Victoria. We are the Lenco Group, your business partner for engineering solutions. Lenco Group. We are more than you realise, and we are ready to partner with you.
Are you looking to change your destiny in life? Be your own boss? Start your own business? If you are, you need people who understand your needs and are committed to helping you make it happen. At DKP & Co Chartered Accountants, we are more than just accountants. We are business advisors, taxation consultants, and strategists that specialise in setting up businesses. We understand the client and give them the very best customised advice and strategies to achieve their goals. Visit our website, dkpco.com.au, or give us a call today on 03 9023 9370. Fast, proactive, personal. That's DKP & Co Chartered Accountants.
They try to open up the Dutch via another route. Iniesta's in the middle all alone. If Fernando Torres can find him, it's stabbed away uncomfortably to Fabregas. Surely now, Spain have won the World Cup for the first time in history. Andres Iniesta has broken Dutch hearts.
You're listening to FNR, Football Nation Radio. You're listening to the State of Our Football Nation on FNR. Josh Parrish, George Danikian in the studio in Docklands, and joining us via Zoom, he's in Sydney, Phil Micallef. Phil, how are you? Welcome to the program.
Thanks, mate. Thanks for having me.
Listen,
how are you?
We're fine. We're excited because you've got a book, brand new book. It's called Quote, Unquote. And Lee Robson said to me it's available now at fairpaypublishing.com.au, and they tell me it's also available at all good bookstores or Amazon, who seems to be in just about everything these days. It's available as a paperback. I think we've got some interesting times coming up, and you've got some fantastic quotes. Where did the idea for the book come from, Phil?
Well, okay. Well, I retired in June, George, as you know.
I don't believe in retirement, Phil. I don't believe in retirement.
Well, there comes a time when you have to give you have to stop and just. But anyway, cut a long story short. So when I retired, Bonita Mercedes rang me, and she said to me, "Phil, why don't you write a book?" I said, "What about?" She said, "How about your best stories?" I said, "Okay." Okay, and the idea appeals to me, and I went back into my records, and I've discovered that there's some decent stuff there. The best 100. Unfortunately, the stories I wrote for News Limited are not online, so I had to type them in again.
Wow.
I had photocopies, but there weren't as many as the ones I wrote for SBS, the World Game. But they're all online, so that's no problem.
Take us back to some of the quotes that you still think resonate, and it gave you enormous pleasure being part of the press family as you were for many years. And, you guys kept the game alive. You gave it energy. You gave us an opportunity to peer behind the scenes, because not everybody gets access to the football unless they're professionals. And you were inside getting a good look for a long, long time. What did you make of those early days, especially in your career, Phil?
Well, I still consider it a privilege. I wouldn't say this to my employers, but I would have done it all for nothing.
Shh, Phil, shush.
And I'm not exactly 100% joking, mind you. Anyway, but the point is that it's a privilege. I got to meet a lot of people. I interviewed a lot of big names. I went to some big matches abroad and in Australia, and I didn't have to pay a cent for that. And I got paid for it. So I feel very lucky and very privileged.
What was the highlight? Has there been one, or has it been an array of highlights that just fill you with a great deal of satisfaction?
Well, the thing is that two players, which I will always fondly remember having talked to. One of them was Michel Platini, and the other one. Diego Maradona, Alvaro Recoba. I spoke to Maradona as well. But anyway, Alvaro Recoba gave me a fairly decent story in 2005 because you remember when we played Uruguay and we lost the first leg in Montevideo 1-0?
Yes.
I was working in the Sydney office of the Daily Telegraph those days, and we were handling the coverage of the event. We had, I think, 3 or 4 whole pages devoted to the match. And I was handling a little story, a reaction-type story from the Uruguayan side of things, okay?
Yep.
And it was a small story, but in the very last paragraph, there was this quote from Recoba, who said that we've got a divine right to make the World Cup. I said, Jesus, this is a good quote. But there wasn't enough for me to rewrite this story and put it on top, and lead with it, because there was nothing, not even a quote, I think. So what I did, I cut out the part so as not to alert.
Just lost your audio there, Phil.
Have you moved? He's probably in one of the.
Else in the media.
Oh, we've got him back.
No. We just lost you there. Just replay that last 15, 20 seconds of the conversation.
Okay, and I was subbing this story from the Uruguayan reaction type.
Yep.
And in the last paragraph, there was this quote from Recoba, who said that they've got a divine right to make the World Cup. I said, gee, that's a great quote, but I couldn't rewrite the story and put it on top as the intro because there was not much on it.
Yep.
So what I did was I cut the whole part altogether so as not to alert anybody else in the media. And I just waited for him to come to Sydney a day or two later. And I went up to him at the football stadium, I think, at the first training session. And I said to him, listen, right,
He's in his dead
said yesterday that you guys have a divine right. Give me a very good story. And he was saying, this is Uruguay.
Yeah, we're dropping, cutting in and out of
us, but Yeah, okay. So
Phil,
what do we do?
apologies. You must be in either. Are you in the house or are you outside?
Yeah, I think we've got a Wi-Fi or a 4G
Something's
dead zone
interfering
here, so
because you're coming and going,
Well,
which is.
I couldn't use my PC, by the way, because it didn't work. So
shall we go to a quick break and we'll try and...
Yeah, all right, let's take a short break and we'll be back with Phil Micallef in just a moment.
Are you looking to change your destiny in life? Be your own boss? Start your own business? If you are, you need people who understand your needs and are committed to helping you make it happen. At DKP & Co Chartered Accountants, we are more than just accountants. We are business advisors, taxation consultants, and strategists that specialise in setting up businesses. We understand the client and give them the very best customised advice and strategies to achieve their goals. Visit our website dkpco.com.au or give us a call today on 03 9023 9370. Fast, proactive, personal. That's DKP & Co Chartered Accountants.
We are more than engineers. We are more than project managers. We are more than surveyors. We are more than infrastructure specialists. We are more than planners. So, who are we? We are problem solvers, providing the highest quality service and results. We are a team of skilled professionals, focused on customer needs and outcomes. We are 23 years of industry experience, adhering to the highest safety standards. We are Melbourne, and we are right across Victoria. We are the Lanco Group, your business partner for engineering solutions. Lanco Group. We are more than you realise, and we are ready to partner with you.
You're listening to the State of Our Football Nation on FNR. We've been on Zoom trying to catch up with Phil Micallef, and we've had, unbelievably, some atmospherics create problems for us. You would have thought that through COVID you could almost do anything these days, securing the knowledge that the conversation would be crystal clear, but clearly it can't. Phil, welcome back to the program. The last time we got you, you were telling us about how you had created a bit of a stir. You wanted to make sure that everyone else in the media didn't get a handle on the story that you were about to run, or the quote, which was a sensational quote from Recoba, who was a hero and almost a god for the Uruguayan football fans. And he's been revered, and in fact, you had him just where you wanted him when he arrived for training.
Yeah, I went up to him and I said, listen, mate, you were quoted as saying yesterday or the day before that Uruguay have a divine right to make the World Cup. Could you please explain or elaborate on this? And he was telling me, that Uruguay are Uruguay and Australians, they should respect us. A World Cup without Uruguay is not really, it misses, it loses a bit without us there. So I'm sorry, but we've got a right to be there, blah, blah, blah. And it was a good story, wasn't it? And I couldn't wait to get back to the office at the Telegraph. And I think they put it on the back page. And it was good, because I felt very proud that day. And also, I was very intrigued when I had a chat with Platini a few years earlier, because remember when the Socceroos played the FIFA All-Stars as part of the inauguration of Stadium Australia in 1999.
Right. Yeah, George Weah was the captain of the Select 11.
Yeah, and Platini was in town, and I went up to him and said, listen, can we have a bit of a chat? And we were talking about all sorts of things, and you know how when you interview a big player, or a big personality, one of the questions you ask him is, which was the highlight of your career?
Yeah.
Okay. And he said, the highlight of my career was the World Cup semi-final in 1982. I said, you got to be joking, are you? He said, what do you mean? I said, you were leading 3-1 in extra time and you lost on penalties and it's still the highlight of your career. He said, of course. He said, because I was one of 22 players who were privileged to have played in arguably the greatest match ever played.
So isn't it? So it goes to show you yet again that perspective is all important. You're telling a story, and he gave you a unique view.
Yes, because
Love it.
I said, because he said, it was emotionally and technically and dramatically, it was perfect. And I was one of 22 players who have played in it. That's why it was my highlight. I said, okay, sir.
Look, I can remember that game. We were of course 1982. That was in Spain. The World Cup was just going, from strength to strength. SBS had made a huge contribution to the game, especially when we launched in 1980. And you had Les, you had Johnny Warren, and a host of others who jumped on board and started preaching the gospel to a whole crop of new football fans. So when you reflect and you allow Platini to give you that insight, that makes it an extraordinarily special opportunity. To speak to Maradona, to speak to Recoba, to speak to Platini. I got a chance to speak to Pelé. And, one of the things that I remember, one of the women, one of the journalists from A Current Affair was very keen to get a quote from Pelé. And guess which quote she went with, Phil? The quote that she ran past him was, "Tell us, Pelé, do you believe that footballers, should have sex before a game? Is it good for you or is it bad for you?" And of course, Pelé, being Pelé, said, "I absolutely have no problem with having sex before a game." Then he balked. He sort of had pause for a millisecond. Then he said, "The only problem I have is I'm worried about my players wasting 7 hours looking for it." So you see, perspective is everything. And tell us about how many quotes make up the book, quote, unquote.
What, you mean interviews?
Yeah. Top stories.
How many have you used to bring the book to life?
Off the top of my head, there's 100 stories. There's probably about 50 interviews.
That's fantastic.
And no, I mean, off the top of my head, I spoke. There are interviews with Zico, Pelé, Maradona, Platini, Schillaci, Dunga, Viduka.
Oh my God.
When he came here.
I was in Italy. I was in Italy in 1990, and the first time this man Schillaci ran onto the pitch, he had the 5 o'clock shadow, but he had it at 11 o'clock in the morning, and he was Mr. Cool, and the crowd at the Stadio Olimpico, you could hear them, Toto Schillaci, and we're talking 70,000, 80,000 people going nuts.
Yeah.
What a side, Roberto Baggio.
Wow. Yeah, I spoke to Jeff Hurst as well, and Terry Venables, and long interviews, And
who was the most impressive? Who was the most impressive, Phil?
You mean person to talk to?
For you, who impressed you the most of all the great interviews that you've had an opportunity to partake in and record? Who did you walk away from and go, God, that was great. I loved it.
Platini was good. Was very good because he gave me half an hour.
Yeah, that's great.
And he talked and talked and talked. I can speak Italian. Obviously, he played for Juventus and he can speak Italian very well.
Yeah.
So we got on very well. But Platini was very good. Maradona was a bit different. What struck me about Maradona was that when I went up to him at the hotel in Coogee, I think it was, a few days before the match against Australia at the football stadium, the thing that struck me most is how small he is.
Yeah, he's tiny.
And when he came to Australia, he was really slimmed down because he had been 1 year out of football because of the ban. So he was really fit, but he was so small, I remember. He looked like an under-16 junior, But
what an under-16-year-old junior he proved to be.
He could play a bit, didn't he?
He could. Phil, tell me, who are your favourite footballers? If I go back and ask you to give us your top three, Who would they be? Would Maradona be one of them?
Okay, this is hard. But you have to grant me this, that I won't give it to you in any particular order.
Fair enough.
Because I'm not sure. All right?
Yep.
My top three best ever
Yep.
would be Di Stefano,
Oh, yeah.
Pele, and Maradona.
Well, you know what you've done. You know what you've done.
He's got a caveat
Oh, you've
here,
got
George.
a caveat. Okay, go on. Go for it. What's the but?
thing
What's
is
the
that-
but?
And knocking on the door would be Messi.
Yeah. Okay. Do you know?
Or knocking on the door.
Okay. Now, people might say that's sacrilege what you've said, but can I just?
Why?
No. I'm just going to provide a disclaimer. People need to understand one thing when they talk about great players. They're all wonderful players. All of them are wonderful, and from Di Stefano's time to Messi's time, the game has changed tremendously. It's refereed differently. The pitches are now magnificent. They're manicured. The ball has changed. It reacts totally differently to the balls that Stefano and Puskás and others used to use. The game is a very different game. And to think we have the audacity as so-called fans to think we know who the GOAT is, the greatest of all time. For me, that's one of those phrases that when I hear it, I want to puke. For me, I've always thought each generation throws up marvelous champions, and we should revere them all.
Yeah,
revere them all.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, but the thing is this, George, that many people do not realize this, that when you start comparing players, and I say player A is better than player B or C or D or E, sometimes it is not just what they provide on the football field. I mean, in terms of sheer class. Sometimes you judge a player by the influence he has on his team.
Very good. Very good.
Okay?
Yeah,
all right?
absolutely.
I mean, I could be a great player, but if I can't influence the course of a match, I'm not that great, am I?
Sure. I hear what you're saying.
You understand what I'm saying? You understand what I'm saying?
You can be technically brilliant, but if you don't have that inspirational component in your makeup, then what are you doing? You're a very sterile sort of footballer.
Yeah. Now Maradona, Pele, and Di Stefano changed many matches on their own.
Correct.
All right, regardless of how they were playing. That's my view anyway.
Phil, I wanted to ask you about your career and working for SBS under Les Murray in an era where I think football was struggling for respect and to be taken seriously and struggling with very oppositional media and SBS was the one sort of enclave for fans of, as the website was later deemed, the world game. Tell us a bit about your memories working for SBS.
Well, the thing is that I did very little television with SBS, very little. I appeared on a few shows with Les and Fozzie. But mostly my contribution to SBS was on the World Game website, which I enjoyed very much. The thing is, you have to understand, Josh, that for a big part of my career, I spent a big part of my career in the offices, designing pages, writing headlines, selecting pictures, subbing stories, and all sorts of things. But I really got stuck into football when I went out of the office and joined SBS and started mixing with people and going to football matches, because that's where the stories unfold, don't they?
Absolutely.
So when I started working for SBS, it gave me the impetus to really express myself, and I was, as I said, I was very fortunate because I've been to a lot of events. And I wrote a lot of stories, and I'd like to think that people sort of somehow know me, some people. But that was it. I mean, I enjoyed SBS mostly because it gave me a scope I'm sort of. I always wanted to be a football writer, but sometimes, other things come into consideration.
Correct. It's called life. It's called life.
Well, that's exactly right. But then when I went to SBS, I found my niche, so to speak.
No, you did. You very much so. And those stories, resonate. And in fact, they resonate so much. Fair Play Publishing has come on board The book is called Quote Unquote, and it's available, as I said a little earlier, from fairplaypublishing.com.au. And again, it's also available if you love reading about great stories, great characters, and great people who've made the game extra special. The book, Quote Unquote, available at all good bookstores, or in fact, Amazon is now getting into the picture. You can get the paperback at $24.99, or an ebook, which is so easy to do, at $12.99. Instant, that's right. It's called Quote Unquote. Philip Micallef, thank you for joining us and giving us a little bit of a teaser about some of the characters and some of the stories. And to think that Recoba would think so much, Just imagine Uruguay not being in the World Cup.
What a scandal.
We started it in 1930. How can we not be there? Look, but it goes to the core. That's why when Australia went to Uruguay to play those games, they had so many problems at the airport. Remember, they were made to feel like outsiders, not just outsiders in the game, but outsiders on the planet. That you had no right to be here because Uruguay is going through. You have no right to play us. It's extraordinary, isn't it?
Right.
And Phil, maybe in some part your story helped rev up the Aussie players ahead of the home leg. You know, maybe you had a little part to play in our qualification.
Well, if that were the case, I'm not sure I would be doubly satisfied.
Phil, thank you so much for making the time, and we look forward to reading the book.
Thanks for having me, and good luck with your show.
Thank you so very much. Philip Micallef joining us on State of Our Football Nation to talk about his new book, Quote Unquote. And when you get to understand some of the stories or read some of the stories, it kind of makes sense, doesn't it? Yeah?
100%.
The way they run on the field, the way they strut around. And of course, Uruguay does have an exceptional history and heritage. The football was designed around Uruguay. Let's not kid ourselves now. We know that.
I think the phrase is interesting too, divine right.
Yeah.
We use it as a cliche, but I think he meant it literally. Well, I mean, I think in South America, football and religion, the lines are a little more blurred than they are here. Yeah. So I think maybe some of what he meant is almost Brazil, lost in translation.
In Brazil, the symbolism resonates throughout the whole
100%.
country. Yeah. Look, Josh, it's been a lot of fun catching up with David Williams and then with Philip Micallef. We've got to revisit David because there's a tremendous story there that we've got to pursue.
Yeah, something he brought up at the end about Indigenous pathways.
And the fact that he has
Australia.
a dream.
Yeah.
Yeah, he sees himself playing a viable and strong role in identifying talent and then being there as a bit of a mentor to get them through the awkward spots because as he said, he's matured now.
I think he might go around one more season in India and try and play in that big derby that's coming up since they've merged clubs. And
I saw him score a couple of goals the other day
he's in top
via
form.
satellite, and he looks great.
He's playing the best football he ever has played. He's peaking late alongside Roy Krishna, and I would love to see him back in the A-League to pursue his dreams on and off the pitch and bring something that he felt he didn't quite bring in his time in Melbourne. He thought he could have applied himself more and could have developed his game further, but he's a different player to when he left for Wellington and when he left those shores for India. So it's been a pleasure to catch up with him and with Philip Micallef.
Until next week, this is State of Our Football Nation on FNR, Football Nation Radio. Josh Parrish, George Danikian. You're listening to the State of Our Football Nation on FNR.